In 1962, Stan Lee had an idea for a series he just couldn't put down. After getting rejected several times, he snuck it into a series called Amazing Fantasy. The issue, Amazing Fantasy 15, went on to be one of Marvel's highest record sales at the time, and nobody could have expected what came next. Over the decades, Spider-Man has become one of the world's most beloved superheroes. Spanning across several iterations, more than 7 full-feature films, and a Japanese spin-off, it's safe to say that there's a lot of source material that Spider-Man has. The question remains, though, what can we learn from the webhead? Hey friends, welcome back to another Life Lessons from Fiction. Spider-Man is my favorite superhero, and I'm very happy to be able to share some of his story with you. If you like this kind of content, consider subscribing, and let me know if you have anything you'd like me to cover in the future. Now, the reason that Spider-Man had such a pushback from Marvel Comics is because editors didn't believe that a character with regular problems would sell well. See, the story of Peter Parker is the story of growing up. It's about finding your way in the world and learning from your mistakes, and because of that, Spider-Man is a very relatable character. This brings us to our first life lesson, which is about learning from our mistakes. You see, there are a lot of key moments in Peter Parker's life that are full of regret, and they might not be the ones that you think of right away. Both Gwen Stacy and Eddie Brock had their lives completely altered because of their relationship with Peter Parker, and while watching your loved ones die and your coworkers slowly descend into madness could tear most people apart, Spider-Man uses these lessons to learn. He does the only thing he can do. He moves forward and tries to make sure the same things never happen again. Now, of course, if regret was the only thing driving you forward, you wouldn't get very far, and that's going to bring us to the biggest theme of Spider-Man, which is responsibility. You see, after watching his uncle's death and realizing he was indirectly at fault, Peter Parker takes up his uncle's motto: with great power comes great responsibility. And he tries to exemplify it in everything he does. And over the course of Spider-Man's career, you can see that he encourages people to take action wherever they can. You see, when most people don't realize when watching Spider-Man, the reason that he's a chronically late individual is because he always wants to help out with every problem that he can.
What you got for me today, New York?
Reporting live from New York 1 Chopper.
Sure, he stops a lot of bank robbers, but he also helps people get their cats out of trees and helps old ladies cross the street. This theme of responsibility is not something that the people of New York take lightly, and you'll see there's a lot of weight on Miles Morales' shoulders when he takes up the mantle. While it may seem at first glance Spider-Man's only calling out those in power to make a change, that's not quite the case. Spider-Man makes it very clear that everyone can make a difference, and while it might not seem obvious to everyone, it is pretty apparent. I'd like you to take a look at the Sam Raimi trilogy. There's a few key moments in the original Spider-Man trilogy that really stand out, where the citizens of New York do their part. Whether it's throwing crowbars at the Green Goblin, or catching Spider-Man from falling off of a subway, every bit counts. If you wanted another example, you can take a look at Flash Thompson's growth throughout the Spider-Man comics. Spider-Man, being one of his biggest idols, slowly shapes his character over time, and you'll see whenever there's real character growth and he starts to care more about the individuals around him, he's usually donning a Spider-Man shirt. So moving forward, we're going to take a step away from the narrative and look at Spider-Man as a character, and hopefully break down what makes him so special. Let's talk about Spider-Man's adaptability. You see, Peter Parker is a very ingenuitive person. Whenever he faces a problem that he's unable to overcome right away, he takes a step back and he always comes back with new tactics. Whether it's creating new suits, new gear, or changing combat tactics, you'll always see Spider-Man as trying things. This is a large part of the reason that he's able to take on several villains at once, and it really shows. Notably, he took down the Sinister Six, which even the Avengers had a problem doing. Being able to cope with sudden change is a really good trait, and having that sort of flexibility is something we should all have more of. Now, the reason we all like a good underdog story is because we love to watch perseverance. The idea that if we keep pushing really hard, all of our problems will eventually be handled is something that everybody can relate to, and honestly, it gives us hope. So let's take a look at some key moments of perseverance from Spider-Man and hopefully get some inspiration. So there's a scene in issue 33 of the comics where Aunt May is dying of radiation sickness, and while Spider-Man has a cure, he's trapped. After a brutal battle with Doc Ock, he's left in an underground base, and there are tons of iron that have collapsed on him. Exhausted and unable to move, he starts to accept his fate. It's only then that he starts to realize the implications of the fact that he's probably the only one that can save her, and he's already failed once before. After an excruciating battle, he slowly is able to lift up the pile of iron above him and make his way out, and it's pretty rough to watch. He focuses on what he needs to be doing and not what he thinks he's capable of. This slowly manifests in him becoming better and better over time, and it's definitely great to see how far he's come. If this sounds familiar, it's because it's echoed in the movie Homecoming. There's a very similar scene where he's trapped under a ton of rubble, and it seems like he won't make it out.
Hello!
conclusion, Spider-Man shows us that the world will beat us down, but we should always try and stand back up. The last thing I want to talk about is the humility displayed in Spider-Man. At any point, Peter Parker or Miles Morales could take their powers and use it for personal gain, or perhaps use it as a publicity stunt the way that Tony Stark did. Instead, they try to use their gifts for good and build something that's greater than themselves. And even when Peter Parker grows up and starts a Fortune 500 company, he never takes credit for being Spider-Man, and a lot of his money goes towards charities. And if that's not being a superhero, I don't know what is. Thank you guys for making it this far in the video. I really do appreciate it. You have no idea. So that's everything from me. There's definitely a lot that we could have gone over that I just didn't have time for. If you'd like more on Spider-Man, let me know. But yeah, as always, have an awesome day. I'll catch you guys later.